Identical twins of Reddit, what's something non-identical between the two of you? Story 1. I like to joke that my brother soaked up all the artistic juices in the womb as my mother is an astoundingly good artist and incredibly creative. He's an incredible artist and writer. As for me, on the other hand, stick figures. And even those he does better than me. Other than that, we're pretty much the same person. Answer. If it helps, art is a skill you can learn. Everyone can learn. The thing is, art comes in many ways and forms. My and my sister both love art, but we couldn't be further apart from each other. She's into horror and macabre art, human figure, etc. I'm into ambient buildings and landscapes. She's more realistic. I'm way more abstract. Answer. Maybe, but up to a certain point, some people just get JT more than others. Answer. Art is very much a skill anyone can learn, but you're oversimplifying it. From a young age, brains develop in different ways. Brains that start to use visualization develop very different from those that don't, and that strength becomes progressively more profound with age. Getting into art as an older person with no or little ability to visualize becomes a much harder skill to train than the dexterity of your fingers or the concepts of shading and brush. Story 2. We're mirror image. I'm left-handed and he's right-handed. Our personalities are also opposites in many ways, with me being more outgoing versus him being reserved. He enjoys sports and I enjoy gaming, etc., etc. Answer. My twin and I are also mirror twins. I have a mole on the front of my neck. They have it on the back. I'm left-handed. They are right-handed. They got all the allergies. I didn't. Answer. Mirror image twin here as well. I'm left-handed, and my brother is right-handed too. Our hair cowlick is on opposite sides of our heads also, but those are the only differences between us. We're both video game nerds, haha. Story 3. My cousins are identical twins. One is 130 pounds. The other is 320 pounds. Answer. I met identical twins, one of whom had been anorexic. They had later taken part in a psychological study, which had looked at the prevalence of eating disorders in identical twins, which is higher than in fraternal twins, which is higher than in the general population. The general idea being that eating disorders can, in part, be ascribed to a struggle to express or control identity. Story 4. I know a set of twins who are in their mid-30s. Usually when they age, some differences can be spotted, but not these two. They are absolutely identical, have the same job, dress the same for work. They have corporate jobs, and the company's policy is not very rigid, so they have room to dress differently but choose not to. Same haircut, same glasses, same weight, similar burr marks, go to the same gym. It's really hard to tell them apart, except on weekends. One is queer, and the other is super traditional straight. If you meet them at a family function or a party, probably one will be wearing makeup so you know who is who. Answer. I love that I can't tell if the identical twins you're describing are male or female, but it still makes sense either way. Story 5. My wife is an identical twin. When we first started dating, I could tell them apart from their voices, smell, makeup, and eyes. However, when they swam or took a very recent bath, they were damn near impossible to tell apart. No smell and no makeup. If they were silent, it was tough. Now, 20 years later, the twin became an alcoholic and turned to food as a coping mechanism. My wife isn't little, but she doesn't look at all like her sister anymore. Story 6. Not an answer to the question, but it's mind-blowing how many people over the years asked us if our boy-girl twins were identical. So many that when someone out in public asked, we just started saying yes. Answer. I'm a triplet and we're not all the same gender. I've definitely had people explain how we're all identical over 10 times. Answer. That's what I am. My brother and I are identical, but we also have a sister. People would debate us right in front of our sister. She's XX and we're XY. We can't be identical. Identical plus a fraternal all of the same gender is kind of cruel. I'm happy my sister was not the same gender. She was already the odd one out. But at least she got to be unique and not subtly different. Answer. Think of how stupid the average person is and realize half of them are stupider than that. George Carlin. I nannied for my BG twin cousins for years. I can't tell you how many times I tried in vain to answer the exact same question to curious strangers. The average person is so stupid. Dumber than you could imagine. Story 7. I'm gay, he's straight. Answer. I have a male friend who is gay and very well groomed. He has an identical twin who is straight, not as well groomed, and 20 pounds heavier. It's like seeing an alternate reality of my friend if he hadn't left the Mormon church. Answer. Some identical twins share one amniotic sac, and some have two amniotic sacs, which implies the latter could have discrete prenatal environments. There is some inheritable factor regarding sexual orientation, but there are also clues that prenatal environments and exposure to different hormones from the mother has an effect. I think it's been proven that the more older brothers a man has on his mother's side, the more likely he is to be gay. I think that only counts pregnancies, as opposed to resulting number of sons. Now that would be a fascinating study to design. Answer: my ex-girlfriend is an identical twin who shared an amniotic sac with her sister. Both are lesbians. Interestingly, both also came out at pretty much the exact same time in their late 20s before telling the other. I just wrote another comment about how if one identical twin is gay, there's a 50% chance the other is, but I don't know if any research has been done on the influence of sharing an amniotic sac. Would be interesting to see a study on it. It's also true, as you said, that a man's chance of being gay increases with each additional older biological brother he has. Whether they're raised together is irrelevant. A theory, at least 15 years ago when I learned about this in college, is that the more sons a woman carries, the more her body sees the developing testosterone as a foreign substance, and her immune system kind of fights it off. So the fetus gets different amounts of testosterone at different times with each subsequent pregnancy with a boy. There are also interesting studies that have found gay men are more prone to their hair whirls, whether their hair on their head grows clockwise or counterclockwise, being a certain direction, I forget which, and their penises being bigger than straight men's, also both functions of the timing of testosterone exposure in the womb. Answer: for men, if one identical twin is gay, there's about a 50% chance the other is as well. For fraternal twins, it's around 25%, and I think non-twin siblings is about 10%. It seems there may be both a genetic component and that hormones and other environmental factors in the womb heavily influence sexual orientation. If I recall correctly, I learned this in college about 15 years ago. These studies were only done with men, but I wouldn't be surprised if it holds true for women too. I've dated one woman who's a fraternal twin and one who's an identical twin, and both of their twins were also lesbians. Story 8. Our personalities. He's the extrovert, I'm not. I have a sternum, he doesn't. Kinda. So he has a concave chest while I have essentially an extra bone in mine. We each had major TMJ jaw correctional surgery when we were 16, literally the next day after the other. But one of us had extra small bones in his face that the other one didn't have. And then there were just extra small bones that both of us had. Technically, we don't know if we're identical or fraternal, but between the chest thing and face thing, I think it's a safe assumption that we're identical. It's also highly likely that we were conjoined at one point before getting separated prior to being born. Answer: I have a big dent in my ribcage on my right side, whereas my sister, not twin, she's 2 years younger, has a ribcage that extends lower on her right side. We've always said that I left a rib in utero and she picked it up. Story 9. I'm not a twin, but I know a set of teenage twins who are such a delight. One recently came out as gay. He's always been artistic and very social. His brother is more of a tough guy, but kind of shy. And he, other twin, is still a bit young to show any interest in dating, romance, etc., but everything indicates he's straight. The lovely thing is how unified and kind-hearted they are. They're both physically strong and they don't tolerate anyone bullying anyone. I'm told by their parents that at their school it's known not to let the twins find out you've been bullying anyone, or the bully will answer to them. They don't initiate physical fights, but they will issue some warnings for sure. Story 10. At summer camp, I met Hallie, who looked exactly like me. We discovered we were twins separated at birth, so we switched places to meet the parents we never knew. When we found out Dad was remarrying, we schemed to reunite our parents. In the end, our plan worked, and now our family is back together. Story 11. He's left-handed, I'm right-handed. He's taller than me by an inch or so. My voice is deeper. My right jaw clicks when I open my mouth past a certain extent because of assault from years back, whereas his jaw is fine. Story 12. When my mother was pregnant with me, they did an ultrasound and found she was having twins. When they did another ultrasound a few weeks later, they discovered that I had resorbed the other fetus. Do I regret this? No. I believe his tissues has made me stronger. I now have the strength of a grown man and a little baby. Story 13. Many years ago, I was working for a graphic design company and editing a photo of a couple of identical twin model dudes wearing Speedos. I pointed out that one was maybe an inch taller, so wasn't he lucky? And my coworker gestured for me to look lower, and sure enough, the slightly shorter one was smuggling a tube of tennis balls down there. Story 14. Not me, but my father and uncle. A few differences. My uncle has a much harsher accent compared to my father. They were raised in the same house. My uncle has a lot more belly flub than my father. My uncle is basically blind and has stupidly high prescription. My father has some astigmatism, but otherwise perfect eyesight. My father gets paid significantly more despite them working in similar fields. My uncle tends to delay and complain. My father likes to take command and get things done. As someone who has seen both my entire life, I can tell you who is who instantly, but to a lot of people you put them side by side and they tend to forget who is who. Story 15. I have 12-year-old identical sons. One has a cowlick at the front of his hairline, so that helps if their hair isn't super short. One hit puberty earlier, so they're pretty different in height and weight right now. They've been mostly the same size before this year. Story 16, I was FWB with twins, each a couple years apart. I found it interesting how completely different they were in bed. And I don't mean just not the same, that's expected. I mean, one was very reserved and meh. The other was just wild and down for whatever. Polar opposites. Completely identical physically, though, for the curious LOL. Story 17. My aunts are identical twins, and my dad and I are the only ones, aside from the two of them, who can tell them apart even in old baby pictures. The older aunt has more hooded eyes. To me, it's incredibly obvious, but nobody else seems to see it. Now that they're in their 60s, they dye and wear their hair differently, and one recently underwent treatment for breast cancer, so they don't look alike standing right next to each other. Still, they get mistaken in the grocery store and other places like that all the time. Story 18. Not exactly what you asked, but my favorite thing we ever did was we were on a train once coming home from a football game, and it was standing room only. So this guy in a seat looked at us for like a full minute, then said, "Are you guys twins or just brothers?" And we looked at each other and I said, "No, we are not relations, sir," in my best Forrest Gump accent. The dude was so confused. Story 19. Me and my twin are complete opposites. I have a pixie cut and she has long hair. I am a musician and she is a mathematician. I am gay and she is straight. I am extroverted and she is introverted. Despite being so different, we are best friends and have so much in common. Story 20, identical twin here. I was born missing half a vertebra in my back and have a weird spleen. Our eyesight is vastly different. I have had crazy bad nearsightedness since 5th grade, like our dad, whereas my twin just got glasses a few years ago for an astigmatism, like our mother. She's outgoing, social, upbeat, with classic style. I'm a lot more introverted, intense, and broody with a cyberpunk punk style. If anyone cares, she tests as an ENFP and I'm an ENFJ. Story 21. Honestly, my brother has a slightly rounder face and less rounded, smaller eye sockets. Our muscle insertions seem to be even very similar, size of our genitals, where we carry weight the most, etc. He has slightly more body hair, but only by a small amount. Both of us have the same toe that overlaps, but his can affect him rarely in negative ways, whereas mine does not. Story 22, I had a doctor one time that was a twin that I ended up being good friends with, and he was a twin. I got to meet the twin, both male, same receding hairline, same upbringing, same voice, but there were two differences between them. The twin was taller and broader, that's it. If you didn't see the size difference between them, you'd think they were each other, but luckily enough, I saw the difference early and could define who was who. Story 23, we let our personalities start to shine from an early age. I knew two other sets of twins, and even in college, they were still incredibly similar, whereas my brother and I really dressed differently. I dyed my hair black and rocked out. He went a bit more stylish gamer route. After growing up being dressed in the same clothes, or he in red and me in blue, our folks really allowed us to express ourselves. I found it weird that other twins around us didn't. They were like living the same life almost. Over the years, we look more like brothers than twins now. I'm really into my fitness and he is games and computers. Our bodies look nothing alike. Our facial features show we're the same, but nothing else really. That, and I have a few more birthmarks on my chest and arms. Answer OMG. I also always found it a bit weird how other sets of twins lived the same life. Acted as one unit always. Once asked an identical twin at college why he chose to attend school with his brother, he said, because we like each other, and I was just like, I also love my twin, but we agreed to go to separate schools? That doesn't answer my question at all, LOL. Story 24. Though me and my sister are identical, people who know at least one of us really well can usually tell us apart. We used to have phases where we looked super alike, then not so alike, then alike again, etc. I like to describe it as we have the same features arranged slightly differently. E.g., one of us opens her eyes wider than the other. I have a cartilage bump on my nose and so on. We understand each other super well, have extremely similar interests and senses of humor, but we often disagree on stuff like personal philosophy, worldview, etc. We just aren't the same person, LOL. Though sometimes when meeting other sets of identical twins, I feel like my sister and I are a little more independent than some. We didn't attend university together on purpose. We have separate social lives. We're both artists, but aim to work in different fields, have our own unique styles and bodies of work, etc. I've met some twins that agree on drawing the same thing, have the same or highly similar styles, or just basically share an art career. We are still incredibly close, just like I said, not the same person. Story 25 looks wise and genetic wise. My sister can do way more with her left hand than me. We aren't fully mirror twins, but she can write a bit and throw a frisbee with her left. I can't do anything. Also, we have different birthmarks and small stuff like that. Our hair whirl is in opposite directions. Socially, we're in totally different job fields, and we live 3 hours apart. We're closer than ever, though, going to different colleges, and having a little distance helped us find our independence, I think. Although it was tough at first. Story 26. I knew two identical sisters, but one had a lazy eye. So twins always get a lot of extra attention, but the one was treated as the one who broke up the set. Dressed alike and posing for pictures, they were just about identical. They were like a Joseph Mengele experiment, and you just felt bad for them. The one sister was outgoing, charming, and cute. She always had boyfriends, got a great job out of high school. The other was just creepy. She had a posture of Mr. Burns. No makeup. She'd been set up on dates. She has a twin sister, only to see their face when she looked at them and someone else at the same time. I remember constantly seeing bloodstains on her t-shirts and then seeing her pick her back acne in public. She just gave up trying to even hold a candle to her sister.